Modern society often confuses respect with a form of external validation. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, how respected do you really feel, or how much of that is just an illusion built on others' expectations? This question provokes a silent pain that permeates the lives of many, feeling invisible, ignored, while the world moves on without noticing your presence. Those who seek approval often find a bitter frustration. With each attempt to please, you distort yourself, molding to the views of others, and your authenticity dissipates. The need for recognition transforms into a vicious cycle. The more you try, the less respected you feel. What are we really cultivating in this? A respect based on superficiality? A facade that can crumble at the slightest breeze? Isn't it surprising that the more you adjust to be accepted, the further away you drift from true respect? Understanding this requires emotional detachment. Respect is not a currency to be traded. It must be cultivated internally, manifesting through assertiveness and emotional control. Emotions, when undisciplined, can become a weakness, an invitation to manipulation. The game of respect involves a calm, almost mysterious presence. Less is more. This is a strategy. When you speak less, your voice becomes stronger. When you reveal yourself completely, you lose the power over how others perceive you. However, true power lies in subtleties. Manipulation can be sophisticated. It disguises itself as kindness, but it's silence that destabilizes. People who truly command respect don't shout, they simply observe. While most get lost in justifications, those who stand out cultivate an intentional air of mystery. This generates an aura of respect that cannot be manipulated or reduced to words. Now ask yourself, are your actions delivering respect or merely seeking acceptance? A shift in focus is essential. Rather than depending on others' approval, start respecting yourself. That is the true achievement of presence. And remember, power does not reside in the recognition you seek from others. It blooms in the confidence of who you are. True strength makes no noise. It resonates in the silence of confidence and in the unspoken authenticity. The dynamic of respect exists within a labyrinth of perceptions and reactions. This power, subtle in its nature, operates at the intersection between what appears and what truly is. Have you ever realized that often, even when surrounded by others, the feeling of loneliness can be deafening? Respect, at its core, is not simply a matter of giving. It is an extraordinary achievement that arises in silence, from attentive observation and deliberate emotional control. In the struggle for respect, many become prisoners of their own narratives. When every step is monitored by the gaze of others, an insidious cycle forms. The search for validation becomes a trap, a pressure that distorts who you truly are. Each attempt to please others can paradoxically distance you from genuine respect. This vicious cycle, instead of solidifying the image you wish to project, weakens your presence, making it a reflection of collective insecurity. Respect then transforms into a heavy mask that suffocates authenticity. So where does the true leverage of power lie? In the choice of how you position yourself in the world. When you are assertive, you control your narrative, and that is fundamental. This assertiveness is not a shout. It is a clear and centered expression that challenges superficiality. Strategic silences, interspersed with the right words, create an aura of respect that safeguards against erosion. By mastering your emotional reactions, you break the cycle of manipulation that others around you attempt to exacerbate. In a noisy world, the calm of silence becomes your ally. A strategic observer, as Machiavelli proposed, knows that power lies not just in being seen, but in being felt. Respect opens up like an abyss when your actions are not merely a response, but a manifestation of your inner truth. You shouldn't be difficult to love. You should be difficult to manipulate. Power is cloaked in resistance to superficiality and in the strength of what is not easily exposed. The real question, therefore, is about your choice of how to perpetuate that respect. If external validation fades, what remains? What will endure is the strength of your inner presence, one that does not waver with others' fleeting approval. If you become the silence that destabilizes, respect will come to you like a powerful shadow. For those who truly see, your absence will be felt. Power doesn't need an audience, it observes. Respect, much like a deep abyss, often reveals more about ourselves than about those around us. Silence, this seemingly empty space, becomes the true force that shapes perceptions and establishes boundaries. It is not merely the absence of sound, but the presence of a silent strategy. By understanding the dynamics of silence, we realize that it is here that power resides. This is where the expectation is flipped. Many believe that being heard is the path to respect. However, the order is reversed. Being respected will ultimately allow us to be heard. The paradox is revealing. The more you seek recognition through speech, the more quickly respect dissipates. Consider those who make noise in search of validation. Their voices shout, yet their true essences remain invisible. Authentic power does not mix with the need for applause. It manifests in the ability to remain silent, while others impose themselves verbally. These pauses, far from mere interruptions, become moments of reflection and careful observation. When you establish yourself as an entity that doesn't need to justify itself, respect becomes inevitable. This understanding prompts a shift in perspective. What is truly disturbing is that there are those who clothe themselves in words to mask their insecurities, while others in their quietude harbor a confidence that speaks louder than any discourse. It is the ability to simply be present that elevates them. They are not born this way. They become a symbol of what is true and for that reason inseparable from genuine respect. Here, silence is not a weakness, but a powerful defense against manipulation. What you do not expose becomes irresistible. By mastering your emotions, you shield yourself from destructive dynamics. Uncontrolled reactions are the most potent weapons in the hands of those who seek to exploit your vulnerabilities. When you refuse to react impulsively, you begin to become unshakable. People respond to what they see. If you become a mystery rather than an enigma to be solved, your respect grows like a shadow, stronger as you withdraw. This does not mean withdrawing from the world. It's about being truly present in a strategic way. When you assert yourself without needing words, others start to take notice. Your presence resonates in the space you occupy. Accept that power does not require an audience. It observes. Embrace silence as your ally. The confidence that doesn't make noise reveals itself in your actions, resting comfortably in the authenticity you possess. It is silence that destabilizes. And by bringing this understanding into your life, a new level of respect emerges, not the kind you seek, but the kind that naturally manifests. In the realm of human interaction, assertiveness is a concept that often gets lost in the noise of emotions and expectations. Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you try, the perfect voice echoing in your mind never quite materializes? When you don't express yourself clearly, what could be a simple act turns into a trap. Frustration grows, while validation feels perpetually out of reach. Instead of straying from your path, you must choose the right way, not just to be heard, but to establish a presence that commands respect. The paradox is unsettling. Being firm and clear often requires a lethal dose of silence. What does it really mean to be assertive? It means not being swayed by a false yes. It's the ability to say no to dishonest appeals that seek to drain your energy. The question isn't just what do I want to say, but how will this affect the dynamics around me? The space you occupy in interactions is measured by the power that emanates from your assertiveness. An undeniable truth: those who make themselves heard amid the storm of external clamor often lose themselves in the confusion. In contrast, those who present a calm, almost unflappable voice gain attention not through noise, but by the strength of a silently defined purpose. Being assertive isn't about tallying points in a battle with words. It's about recognizing the power contained in your presence. It's crucial to learn how to maintain emotional control. This control is a form of emotional intelligence that should not be taken for granted. When anger, frustration, or anxiety evaporate from your being, what truly matters becomes clear. Every gesture, every breath, transforms into an expression of who you are, not what the world wants you to be. Let's return to the nature of respect. It is not a gift that is given. It is a strategic conquest. When you stop submitting to the need for approval, you begin to cultivate fertile ground for authenticity to flourish. It is in this space that true strength emerges. Instead of allowing yourself to be influenced by others' expectations, you create your own message, one that doesn't need external confirmation to exist. So when you express your thoughts and feelings, they are received not merely as words, but as direct manifestations of your essence. Be clear. Your emotions are not weaknesses, but your greatest asset. Master them. Use them as a map to navigate through hostile environments. The simple act of listening before speaking is often more powerful than any well-structured argument you could formulate. This is not a defense, it's a strategy. While others talk and assert themselves, you observe, shaping a narrative that challenges superficiality. As you strengthen your assertiveness through practice and understanding, you will realize that it's not about being seen. In fact, it's about being felt. When you dare to step back and remain steadfast in yourself, those around you will begin to notice your presence. Let respect come to you, not as a reward but as a natural expectation. Just remember, true strength doesn't make noise. It resonates in the secure silence and in the decisions made with strategic precision. In the end, what is revealed is that power redefines the experience of respect. You don't have to beg for attention. On the contrary, become someone who is felt in your absence, a testament to the depth that lies behind silence. Being respected is not the end of the narrative. It is the fundamental condition that sustains the authenticity of your presence. Those who observe don't need to understand. They just need to feel the impact you can make. If you position yourself as the calm in the eye of the storm, inevitably the storm will settle to recognize your worth. When we talk about emotional control, it's crucial to recognize that this is an internal battle. Life is a battleground of perceptions, where each emotion can become the flame that ignites or the water that extinguishes. For many, the ability to assert oneself is closely connected to the ability to master one's emotions. Have you ever found yourself paralyzed in a conversation out of fear of judgment? This paralysis is the trap many fall into when seeking respect through conformity instead of authenticity. It is an invisible pain that, over time, undermines your self-confidence. The imposition of the external gaze is a subtle poison. With every emotional reaction you don't control, you give away a part of your personal power, and that power is what attracts genuine respect. Emotion, when uncontrolled, turns into vulnerability, and this vulnerability can be exploited by those seeking to manipulate. Imagine a situation where you are challenged in a meeting. Your breath quickens, your hands sweat, and automatic defenses take over. In that moment, you forget the most important thing. Respect cultivated on fertile ground is always more solid than respect built on frenzy and insecurity. When the outside becomes more important than the inside, you enter a dangerous game. Silence becomes a more powerful response than words that signal weakness. In the midst of chaos, it is in that silence that you reveal your true mastery. You become an unsettling presence, not for what you say, but for what goes unspoken. A firm and controlled presence doesn't seek to be heard, it demands to be felt. Take a moment to consider, what do your emotions reveal about you? The turning point occurs when you realize that others' perplexity is not your responsibility. By adjusting your perception, you see that emotional control is not a sign of weakness, but true strength. It's not about not feeling, it's about feeling and choosing when and how to react. This is a power few master. If you allow your environment to define your emotions, you become a leaf in the wind, subject to external whims and caprices. Embracing assertiveness is a revolutionary act. In this act, you do not become an echo of the voices around you. You become the gravitational center that attracts respect. You stop being a spectator of your own life and become the author of your narrative. It's not about impositions, but about deliberate choices. Now, as you clearly understand the relationship between emotion and respect, you remain unshakable. And this unshakability creates a shift. If you don't need external approval, then respect comes to you as something inherent. You are no longer a hostage to others' validation. And what the world will see is someone who, at their essence, does not expose themselves but presents themselves. True strength seeks and finds its space in control. The element that escapes the gaze of the rushed is the intentional firmness of silence. When emotion is tamed, there is no room for despair. only clarity and purpose. And remember, power lies with those who become a mystery. You shouldn't beg for recognition. You should be the calm presence that challenges the turbulence. Respect takes on new dimensions. It is not a request, but a silent acknowledgement of your strength. Those who observe do not need to understand how you got there. They just need to feel the absence you create by living your inner truth. By adopting this mindset, you will discover that becoming a pioneer of genuine respect is a journey of self-mastery. When you finally realize that greatness does not require shouting, but can be a dignified whisper amidst the noise, you will see that in fact, power does not need an audience. It develops in the shadows, where few dare to look. The relentless pursuit of external approval becomes a trap, a sort of poison that dilutes our presence. This need to be accepted, to be validated, carries with it an unbearable weight. Have you ever felt like a ghost in a space where you should have a voice? The burden of others' gazes turns interactions into a game of appearances, where every smile is exchanged for fleeting recognition. What we see on the surface may not reflect what we are truly feeling. This is the cruel paradox we face. The frustration accumulated from not receiving the respect we seek causes a slow yet deep erosion of self-esteem. When you stray from who you truly are to please others, your authenticity gets lost in distorted translations. The game becomes superficial, and what was once a genuine goal transforms into a shattered mirror where each fragment reflects an external expectation. Each time you seek others' approval, you lose a piece of your power. A power that, contrary to popular belief, does not lie in pleasing others, but in asserting yourself. True respect isn't something that can be exchanged with words, and dependency on approval transforms into a staircase leading to mediocrity. Bonds built on such fragile foundations can crumble at any moment. It's time to shift your perspective. Respect should be a gift you give yourself, an internal conquest that radiates outward. Silence, often underestimated, can be more formidable than any eloquent speech. It creates a space that doesn't need to be filled with justifications. When you stop seeking external validation, a new dynamic emerges. Take the reins of your own narrative. Your presence becomes an attractive field of force, a space that does not cry out for attention, but is remarkable in itself. Assertiveness reveals itself here as an act of courage, not as a display of brute strength. Speaking less doesn't mean relinquishing your voice. On the contrary, it means making every word carry significance and intention. The true embodiment of your being manifests in emotional mastery. The ability to remain steadfast in your essence, challenging the noise of the world, transforms the dynamics of interaction. This is not an invitation to isolation. It is a posture of self-confidence that invites respect. Once again, you must understand, respect is not derived from the need to be seen. When you become the calm in the chaos, the storm around you quiets in acknowledgement of your worth. The key lies in mapping your emotions and reactions. In that control resides true strength. You have likely found yourself battling against reactions that seemed uncontrollable: anger, frustration, insecurity. These emotions, when unbridled, become a tool for manipulation in the hands of others. The appropriate response is not to hide. It is to assert your truth with a resounding silence, a space where wisdom and authenticity intertwine. As you assert yourself in this space, remember, power reveals itself in absence, the absence of noise, the need to constantly prove yourself. Respect will be an echo of what you've cultivated internally. You don't need to make noise to be heard, you need to be felt. The expectation that others will recognize your efforts dissolves in the face of a new truth. You are the architect of your own respect. What others see will depend on what you choose to control. After all, power isn't measured by the number of words spoken, but by the depth of the silent presence that stands firm. And in invoking this deep understanding of the dynamics of respect, you discover that to be truly respected, you must be the presence that challenges superficiality. You are not what others see, but what they do not need to see to understand your worth. Respect, then, is a natural consequence of becoming someone who observes without the need to be observed. Be the calm that unsettles. Authenticity is a silent weapon. In the game of respect, being yourself is not just a choice, it's a survival strategy. The pressure to conform, to mold yourself to others' expectations, turns authenticity into a precious commodity, often relegated to the bottom of the hierarchy of needs. But what if you allowed yourself to be a mystery instead of a solution? The truth is that, by trying to please all the time, you are effectively giving away your power. How many times have you felt compelled to justify your choices, your personality, or even your weaknesses? The collective unconscious demands a price for conformity. Each excuse, each attempt at validation, instead of rebuilding your image, fragments it. You become an echo of others' opinions, a shadow of what you could be. And this creates a pain that is often silent, yet it permeates every aspect of your life. Loneliness. That's the price of the relentless quest for acceptance. The presence of everyone around you does not guarantee respect. On the contrary, when you try to adjust to an expectation instead of asserting yourself, what should be connection and understanding turns into an emotional desert. The recognition you seek doesn't come from approval. It comes from the respect you give yourself. And when you refuse to seek validation, you create an almost authentic space where respect can flourish. Being authentic doesn't mean exposing yourself without filter. It means having the emotional control to reveal only what is essential. This requires a deep mastery of your emotions. Each uncontrolled reaction is a weakness that can be exploited by those observing from the outside. By staying firm, you don't respond to impulses that try to manipulate you. Instead, you project an equality that naturally attracts respect. Emotions become your allies, a facet of your identity that, while intimate, does not succumb to vulnerability. It's a paradox. What goes unexposed becomes irresistible. When you allow yourself to be imperfect, you become relevant. Your authenticity, with all its flaws, transforms into a continuous learning experience. It's not about pleasing others, but about being real. This resonates on the deepest level of human interaction, transcending words and transforming into a tacit acknowledgement, a respect that doesn't need applause but is felt, absorbed and assimilated. The true power of respect rests upon your decision to be authentic, even when that slows down the flow of immediate recognition. Greatness is not a shout, it's a whisper in the storm. Those around you may not understand immediately, but they will feel your strong and untouchable presence. By remaining true to yourself, you instill a quiet restlessness. Embrace this truth, and your need for validation will evaporate. Respect will begin to gravitate toward you, and your journey will become a declaration of resilience. Consider the shadows you cast. Being genuine requires courage. When the quest for acceptance fades, you become the space where authenticity can finally resonate. Uncovering that strength amid external expectations is finding your place in the world. And in doing so, you discover that power does not need an audience. It observes. The idea of creating an aura of mystery is intrinsically linked to the mastery of respect that you emanate. If the quest for approval is a trap that builds superficial respect, then understanding the power of mystery unveils a much more effective and subtle strategy. How you present yourself to the world goes beyond the words you say. It's about how you position yourself relative to expectations, and that truly shapes how others perceive you. When you overly expose yourself, the essence of who you are becomes an open book, easily interpreted and often manipulable. What happens when you set aside the need to explain, justify, or defend yourself? The answer is that your presence becomes more impactful. Mystery is not merely a psychological game, but a manifestation of control of yourself and the dynamics around you. It is this strategic silence that challenges superficiality. You transform into a force that doesn't need to be immediately understood. You are seen, but rarely dissected. The perception of respect by others is often influenced by how much you allow yourself to be seen. When you become predictable, the nature of the respect you attract becomes fragile. Genuine respect requires an element of curiosity, a tension that only arises when others sense there is more to you than you reveal. You don't need to expose yourself to be valid. In this revelation, the quest for self-validation becomes an act of resistance against the need to comply with others' expectations. Silence then becomes a powerfully strategic trap. More than just a void of words, it is a space filled with intention and presence. You position yourself in the world without the anxious search for acceptance, thus creating a backdrop that makes your presence more attractive and respected. You are there, observing, absorbing, while others try to stand out amidst the chaos of social life. Your reticence becomes a form of emotional control, an indicator of your strategic superiority. By embracing this mystery, you become a magnet for respect. What is not exposed becomes irresistible. People feel your absence when you're not around, generating a respect that is both intuitive and deep. You become a presence that demands attention, not by being loud, but by being an enigma that defies superficiality. Living with an aura of mystery is not just a calculated move. It's a space where self-knowledge and authenticity walk hand in hand. You do not become a mystical figure, rather you become a symbol of resilience and confidence. In a world that amplifies superficiality, your willingness to remain slightly in the shadows allows true respect to germinate, creating roots in fertile soil that does not wither over time. Thus, respect flows naturally, not as a demand, but as a silent acknowledgement of your inner strength. You do not need to beg for attention. True influence reveals itself in those moments of strategic silence. You are not an echo of others' voices. You are the calm that challenges the storm. In the complex game of respect, the true conquest is not external acceptance, but the silent impact that authenticity can provoke. Many of us have felt the pain of being invisible in the midst of crowds. This feeling often stems from an incessant effort to please, an effort that instead of creating bonds erects walls. The paradox is cruel. The more we try to shape ourselves to what others value, the further we drift from who we truly are. Have you ever found yourself justifying your decisions, thinking that might earn you respect? That disenchanted city, where validation is sought yet simultaneously ignored, is a dark place. What happens when we let go of that need? The answer lies in a deeper understanding of what it means to respect oneself. This is the core of the issue that many avoid facing. Respect, in its most genuine form, is a reflection of internal integrity. When you respect yourself, you no longer need to depend on others' gazes. You become a presence that simply is. Deconstructing this pattern leads us to realize that manipulation and emotional control are double-edged swords. When we do not know how to master them, we become their victims. Transitioning from an incessant pursuit of acceptance to a firm stance of self-worth requires an act of courage. This change in perspective is not just a strategy, it's a deliberate choice that alters the entire dynamic of interactions. By aligning your actions around genuine respect, you become not just an observable figure, but someone who is felt. This attractive presence, which does not seek approval but is recognized for what it is, creates an aura of respect that cannot be easily destabilized. Challenge yourself to see interactions as a battlefield of invisible struggles. In silence, a powerful trap, lies an opportunity. When you allow yourself to be a mystery instead of a constant exposure, your respect deepens. Authenticity shines brighter when it is not constantly illuminated by the need for recognition. In doing so, you distance yourself from the superficiality that frequently dilutes the value of respect. Each action becomes a reflection of who you truly are, a strategic reminder that respect is a legacy built rather than a gift bestowed. Thus, when the curtain of external recognition falls, what remains is the respect you have cultivated in your internal soil. Power does not lie in the search for applause, but in an untouchable presence that, upon withdrawal, leaves a reverberating echo. Within this space, your absence will begin to create a void that provokes reflection and, inevitably, respect. You don't need to expose yourself. You need to be felt. When you understand this dynamic, a powerful journey begins. You become less an object of approval and more a respectable presence. They don't need to understand you. They only need to fear your absence.